Okay, great, thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Tucson-Pima County Historical Commission Plans Review Subcommittee meeting of Thursday, May 25th, 2023, called to order at 1:01 p.m. In lieu of roll, I'll just go ahead and do roll call. Terry Majewski is here. Joel Ireland. Joel, you're on mute.
Yes, here.
Okay, thank you. Savannah McDonald.
Here.
Great, thank you. And not here are Commissioners Mulder and Griffith. But we have a quorum. Okay, item 2 is approval of the legal action report / minutes for the meeting of May 11th, 2023. Could I have a motion to approve as submitted, please?
I so move. This is Joel.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? So it's a doozy. That's my discussion.
It was
Yeah.
good.
Okay, and thanks for reviewing it.
Very detailed, yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call roll then. Terry votes aye. Joel?
Yes,
Savannah?
Aye.
Okay, passes 3-0. Thank you. Item 3 is historic preservation zone review cases. And we review these under UDC section 5.8/TSM 9-02.0.0 Historic District Design Guidelines and the revised Secretary of the Interior Standards and Guidelines. The first case is 3A TCCON-0423-01043 at 1000 North Stone Avenue. This is for the construction of 2 shade structures and installation of 2 benches. It's a full review in the West University Historic Preservation Zone. It's a contributing resource and will be using the Secretary of the Interior's rehabilitation standards. Do we have any background on this case, Michael?
Yes, Madam Chair. This project had gone to West University first as a courtesy review, and they came back this time on May 16 for a full review. During the courtesy review, staff advised that it would probably be best for them to go to the Historic Landscape Subcommittee so that they can review their proposal before they get to PROS. So on April 26, 2023, this project, the same project you are looking at today, was presented to the Historic Landscape Subcommittee. And the motion was, Commissioner Mulder moved that the Historic Landscapes Committee recommend approval of the 2 shade umbrella structure and 2 benches for Anza Park with the stipulation on that the color of the shade structure be unobstructive as possible, so that the color of the benches be compatible with the existing playground structure. The motion was seconded by Commissioner Lamb, and it passed by a roll call vote of 4-0. Then on May 16, when West University Historic Zone Advisory Board had their meeting, it was recommended for approval. Clerk motion to recommend approval of the project as presented, with the shade umbrella color to be muted and to be chosen by Park and Rec Department and West University Neighborhood Association. Donner seconded the motion. The motion passed unanimously by a roll call vote of 6-0. This ends staff presentation today, and I can answer any further question that you may have. I was actually at the West University meeting on May 16, so I am available to answer any question that the subcommittee may have.
Okay, so Michael, what was the date of the West University courtesy review?
May 16, 2023. And then the Historic landscape subcommittee was April 26th.
Okay, so I'm sorry, so the courtesy review is 4/16? Because you said West University did a courtesy and then a full review on 5/16?
Yeah, the full review was on May 16th. I don't have the date of the courtesy review for me, but I will provide that to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'll leave that as a blank in the LAR.
Yes.
It's just good to have the sequence. So, okay, and who's presenting this case?
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to present. My name is Jim Glock. I'm the treasurer of the West University Neighborhood Association. In full disclosure, I'm also a member of the West University Historic Zone Advisory Board.
Okay, and is there anyone else for this case on the meeting? I just want to be sure for the record that I get everything correct. So, okay, Jim, did you want to go ahead and bring up a presentation?
If I can share my screen.
You can, go ahead.
All right, can everyone see the screen?
Yes, I can.
Very good. We're requesting consideration of shade umbrella in the dog parks at the Anza Park, as well as some benches around the play structure that exists there today. There's been quite a long history with respect to Anza Park improvements. Prop 407 provided the funding, included new restroom, as well as through the master planning process, the recommendation for the dog parks. We went through historic review for the restrooms and for the dog park. The restrooms have been completed. They are operational most of the time. We do have issues with vandalism, but that's here and there from this committee's standpoint. Also, we got approval for the dog park, and it has been completed. Originally, we'd anticipated the budget to be able to offer some shade for the dog park. But as you know, we've seen inflation really hit our construction activities. And as a result, no shade was allowed, or it was able to fit within the Parks and Recreation budget. The West University Neighborhood Association has stepped forward. It has funds that it has raised through the efforts of its volunteers, and has been able to secure a budget of $30,000 for the provision of shade. As you may or may not know, the dog parks have concrete benches and tables within the dog fenced in areas. There's a small dog area and a large dog area. Those benches get terribly hot in the summer, and the neighborhood would like to provide some shade relief for the dog walkers as they come. Looking at a variety of structures available for us to consider, we ended up landing on a shade proposal that really is, imagine taking a beach umbrella and setting it up as you are waiting for your dog to do its business. We are going to be putting in or recommending 12-foot diameter shades, 6-foot square cantilevered umbrellas over the benches. The image that you see before you is just the image from the vendor of the shade structures. And they would be have a 12-foot height from the bottom of the shade to the ground to address issues that Parks and Recreation has found with other cloth shade structures at other facilities. Included in this recommendation and within our ability to fund is the recommendations for some benches around the play structure. that exists today at the park. We are right now, if any parents were to come and want to have their children play, there's really nowhere for them to sit and observe their children. This fits within our budget, these particular features, and we are hopeful for a positive consideration on the part of the Plans Review Committee for these particular proposals. I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have, let's see, one more image if I can pull it off. Let's see if I can do that. I wanted to show you the color palette of the cloth material. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. That we would use. Parks and Recreation has found over time that the brighter colors, the yellow, the red in particular, orange, do not hold up well given our summer sunshine. Colors that they are looking at are the dark greens and dark blues and grays for this particular material. And as the previous committees have suggested, they just gave guidance to parks and West University participants to work within a color palette that's muted and is compatible with the other color schemes that reside elsewhere in the park. So that, Madam Chair, members of the committee, is the extent of my presentation. I'm happy to answer or try to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Glock, and we'll go ahead with some questions then. Who would like to begin?
Madam Chair, before we start the question, let me also add that the courtesy review was done with West University Historic Zone Advisory Board on April 18, 2023.
On April 18th.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you. Okay, Savannah or Joel, do you have questions?
I don't have any questions. I think it's commendable that the neighborhood got organized and was able to provide this asset. So I think it's great. No questions.
Okay, and Joel?
Yeah, hi, thanks. I just have a couple of things. In terms of the color, what will be the procedure for picking that color, Jim, Mr. Glock?
I think it'll be a Zoom meeting between project manager, Mr. Fisher and Parks and Recreation staff, and then the president of the West University Neighborhood Association, Betsy Larson-Besnick.
Okay, so that, I mean, not even a minor review, it'll just be, which is fine, it's great, so. And then, and I was actually down there and looking at the project, actually yesterday, and there's a notice on the parks there that they'll be closed this summer. Is that for this construction?
I'm not
No, okay.
familiar with that. And did the notice say it was going to be closed for construction?
Yeah, for quite some time it was. I didn't write it down, but yeah, I mean, I was just going to use it, and I saw it was closed, so I just didn't know what was going on there.
Okay. I thought Mr. Fisher would join us today. He's not here. I'll make an inquiry with respect to him in that vein.
Okay. And I just, these are more informational questions. I know the neighborhood's really on fire about getting this done, and it's a great project. So good job. Thanks.
Great. Jim, could you tell me a little bit more about the benches, please? Because it's, I think the motion from West University Historic Preservation Zone Advisory Board was that the benches be compatible.
Just a moment. Let me shift my screen and pull up the benches.
Yeah, why he does that, Madam Chair, at the West University, the board also proposed that there should be some dividers inside along the benches so that it doesn't act like a sleeping ground for the homeless population. and Mr. Fisher said they were going to look into that. So these benches should not just be flat that somebody can lie on it, but they wanted some dividers for the benches.
Okay. And you had mentioned, Jim, that these were just examples of what the benches might look like, but you know, I know that the neighborhood was concerned about use of the park by homeless people. And so so you will be considering the dividers?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Taku, for pointing it out. Yes, there are going to be bum bars on the benches to prevent folks from being able to sleep on them. The vendor didn't have an example or a picture for us to be able to utilize in our presentation.
Okay. Thank you. So Joel or Savannah, I'll need you to make a motion. We might want to, since there won't be any minor review or anything to decide on the color, we could just, as West University mentioned, having a muted color. Was that what their final motion was? Michael?
Yes, ma'am. The final motion, they discussed that the final motion would be for the Parks and Rec Department and West University Neighborhood Association to meet and choose the colors.
Okay, and then
Same thing that Jim has explained.
that when they say compatible benches, compatible with what?
I think it's the existing playground colors, right? Or to match them.
Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, in reference to that, we would have the colors of the benches mimic the colors of the play structure, this dark blue.
Okay,
If the benches come in that color, otherwise we may have to go with the green, which would match the greenery of the vegetation surrounding the structure.
okay. So I think, do we commissioners want to include in the motion the benches with dividers and so forth? But I'll leave it up to you. Who would ever like to make a motion, please?
I can do it.
Great.
I'm sorry, Savannah, I just don't have the numbers, or I would have done it.
It's okay. You get the next one.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. Okay, on the matter of TC-COM-0423-01043 at 1000 North Stone Avenue, I move to recommend approval of the project as presented, including the notes about the shade structure cloth and the benches to be, or sorry, the shade structure cloth to be muted in color and the benches to match the playground colors as possible, and to ultimately be chosen by Parks and Rec and West University Neighborhood Association.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes, I second.
Great, thank you. Is there further discussion? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry says aye. Savannah?
Aye.
Joel?
Yes, I.
Great, so it passes 3-0. And Mr. Black, you're aware of the next steps, or would you like Staff Taku to go over those?
I believe Mr. Fisher is holding our hands with respect to that. You don't need to take up time of your meeting to do that. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to be sure you were okay. Well, thank you and good luck with the project.
Thank you.
And I'm sure it will go well.
Okay.
So thanks very much.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to case 3B. It's SD 0423 00044 TC-COM-0223-00659 at 33 South 6th Avenue. This is an alteration to the existing facade. It's a full review, a contributing resource in the Downtown National Register Historic District, and we're using the rehabilitation standards. And who's here to present this case, please?
Dan Maher from GLHN Architects and Engineers.
Okay. Let me What was your company again?
GLHN, Architects and Engineers.
GLHN Architects and Engineers. Okay, great. All right, so is anyone else here to present with you?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sasha Kessler, and I'm an architectural job captain with GLHN Architects and Engineers as well.
Okay, and very good. So Michael, do you have any background for us?
Madam Chair, all I can say for this one, this project is actually managed by our colleague Maria Gale. So unfortunately, she's not here to do this presentation. But as far as we understand it from our office, this is the project is located in the Gibson Court in downtown. And we understand that the existing corrugated metal screen is going to be removed from the west face of the structure, and that the existing west glazing is to be replaced with double pane door fronts. And then there will be new colors for the west facade and a new security gate on the west elevation. As far as the project goes, that's our understanding of the project at this point in time. I think the presenters will probably add more in depth, but that's where we are right now.
Great. So Mr. Meyer, do you want to go ahead and begin with your presentation, share your screen or whatever?
Yep, absolutely. So Sasha is going to drive for us here. So the project is a tenant improvement of the existing building. The future tenants currently run and operate several of the businesses around this location, including the High Wire Bar. So this is a conversion to a meeting space, possible wedding venue, event space within this location. The exterior to be modified is essentially removing some of the perforated screening that has gone over the west glazing that is currently there. Replacement of the glazing, as mentioned before, brought up to a more modern standard. That will be we will be replacing the framing as well, but the intent is to use a historically complementary mullion system, so to not change the sight lines too much, simply bring it up to better energy efficiency standards, and then to replace. Currently, there is a residential type door that has been framed in to prevent vagrancy in the existing historic alcove. We would remove that, obviously, and we would put in a perforated gate system that would allow the kind of visual appeal of the depth of the alcove to come through, but it would prevent people from staying and sleeping in that alcove, which is how the ad hoc kind of renovation of that residential door that's there now came into play. The front facade would be painted with historically complementary colors that we have within our some of our drawings, but otherwise there would be no alteration of that facade. There we go.
Commissioners, I think we've reviewed some of this previously, haven't we?
So we went through a courtesy review ahead of this full submittal to just basically see if there was anything that we would run afoul of. There were a couple comments that came back that were very minor, and we did pick those up, and now we're going through for full review for permit approval. One thing that I did, this came up very recently. There are two existing doors. They are wood. They probably date to at least 50 years ago, we'll say. There are single lights in each one of them. They are fully mortised doors for their hardware and are currently incompatible with Panic hardware. The client's preference would be to replace those along with the glazing with a more modern door that simply receives Panic hardware. if we do have to go through the restoration of the wood, we're happy to do so. We just need a little bit of direction on that.
Okay. Do you want to finish your presentation, then we'll make our comments, or is it basically? So that's an interior renovation that you're asking about. in addition
Correct.
of a new
Correct. Yep.
existing-
So we're doing an interior TI, and then we're basically updating the finishes of the existing facade and the glazing system.
So are you going to DRB with this?
We are.
And when is, do you know?
It is next month. I do not recall off the top of my head what our date is, Sasha.
Our date is June 16th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so are you ready for questions?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Who would like to begin? Savannah?
I guess I must have missed it the first time. Can I get more of the background if that's possible? Can you just go through the full presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same boat. So thank you, Savannah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been a while, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say that our courtesy review is probably right around the turn of the year. So it's been a little while, right? So the project is part of the Gibson Court. It's right there on 6th between Congress and Broadway. It was formerly, I think most recently it was the drawing studio. And then it's been vacant for several years. So the current tenants, like I said before, occupy Highwire, and they would like to go into a conversion for an events venue, right? So as part of that, we are requesting to take down a perforated metal screen, which is shown in the photo documentation that we have. Can use. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm unfortunately working off of my phone. That covers up the existing glazing, and then go back and kind of articulate via paint some of the original historic architectural elements within that front facade. Because it is west facing, we would like to replace the glazing. As I said before, it's currently single pane. It's been damaged, shot out, things like that, and essentially just move it back towards where it was from historical photographs. The largest change would be that we don't have the previous paint colors or things like that, but we worked off of a complementary palette that we ran past during our initial courtesy review for approval before going ahead of full historic review and approval.
Do you have a picture with the complementary colors or no?
Yeah, there's a rendering. Yep.
Mhm.
So one question that we have addressed in the past, and probably the board has as well, we are replacing the glazing. There will not be, a mirrored finish or anything like that. It will there, obviously with Solar Band 70 type of products and things like that, there is a little bit of a tint, but we'll try to keep that as I guess as to the background as possible. It won't be anything with heavy tint or anything that would look out of place.
And what is the question about that glazing? Is it, I thought in your initial comments, you said something about it being possible that we save the wooden ones, but perhaps not.
Yeah, so that is actually solely related to the existing double front doors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so the glazing system that is in place right now is a I don't think that it's the original glazing system. It's as I recall, it's aluminum, but it does have narrower sight lines than some more other modern glazing systems, storefront systems. So we would be replacing that. We would replace the frames, including the mullions, with something that was complementary. The doors themselves are wooden. We have an image of that. Sasha will show. But they have full mortise hardware and are currently incompatible with panic hardware that would be required based off of the occupancy of this space. So the question that we had was, do we have the carpenter pull the doors, prep them and install panic hardware, which could be kind of complicated and difficult, or can we replace with a complementary double door system in an aluminum storefront that has similar size styles and things like that.
Sorry, since you have this up, it looks to me that the storefront is wood framed. Is that right?
It's just there. It transitions from the facade that goes along 6th into that alcove, but there is wood framing there at that alcove.
So the front storefront is aluminum framed, single pane.
Correct.
So is any of that original? Do you have any original photos or anything from an earlier period?
We did, as I recall.
I haven't seen any of that, Dan,
Oh,
unfortunately. Yeah.
so it sounds like that didn't make it into the application, but we have seen. Unfortunately, it's from the other side of 6th. So the amount of detail that we would be able to glean from those photographs, Savannah, would probably not be too great.
But I see like a wood column out there. Is that
Yeah,
that's all staying? Anything
that is all staying. Yeah, that is all staying.
Okay.
Savannah and Joel, how do you feel about replacing the doors?
I mean, we don't know if they're original, right?
Yeah.
I think it makes sense for the use. I think there's a light in them. It would be nice to maintain that feature. Whether it's like a 3-panel like that with the top and the bottom, I don't know if that's absolutely required, but might be kind of neat. But as long as I think there's a light in it. Again, I don't know that they're original, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard to know. It's kind of goes back to your point of view. Like, do you want to replicate, or do you want to kind of move forward and distinguish new from old, which I think both are valid, since it's likely we're not working with original material anyways.
Yeah, and that was really our intent. And Savannah, I would agree with you. I think that what we would prefer to do, as long as it is approved, is replace with a modern door that is more secure, that has a light in each one of them. When we went through the courtesy review, one of the things that came up that was important to the reviewers then, and is important to us as well, is keeping the depth of that facade represented. We had a request from our client to bring that security fence all the way to the front facade. The shadow lines of how it appears on the street are important to us, and I think that it's important for the Historic Commission that reads from at the street level as well. And so that's one of the things that we've kind of focused on. So
does the alcove make up grade too? Often that's what happens, right? Like there's a difference between the sidewalk elevation and the floor slab, or is it just?
So it is pitched for drainage. Essentially, there's not a step. So you can see if you look, but there's not a marked elevation change.
Yeah, I think for any future reviews you do of buildings like these, it's really very important, even if you've got any photographs at all. But I think because you're planning on doing a rehabilitation, and we're not attempting to replicate anything, and these storefronts do change, but I think this feature, the entrance feature, how it's structured, is really important to me. So
yeah, understood.
Yeah, Savannah, do you have anything else?
Well, I guess I was trying to compare new to old, and it seems like and I guess I just want clarification that kind of the patterning of the proposed new is it compatible or at least kind of following or matching the patterning, right? Like the verticals
Of the original.
of what's there now. It looks to be, but I guess that was right. Not the
Yeah, so
corrugation, but the aluminum frame that's there now. Like you're kind of just replacing it
Yeah,
with new. The vertical mullion is where the existing vertical mullion, like that kind of thing. Is that the
correct.
case?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, and the tile will remain, and it's
The
already,
tile will remain. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the colors go, and if you're going, if you have some photograph that you're looking at and trying to match those like contrasts, is that what I heard? I think that sounds
Yes.
good. That sounds fine.
Correct. Yep.
I would like to see the photograph have made it in the presentation, but that's okay. We'll take
Yeah.
it.
So, hey, Sasha, if you guys have a sec, we do have photographs, and I know that we do because I don't know how they didn't make it into the submittal, but Sasha, in the job folder, we have the packet that came from Nick, and it has photos.
So Terry, while they're looking for that, this is Joel. Where are we landing on the door thing, or is this part of this discussion?
Well, I think, Savannah, you can speak for yourself, but I'm okay with using an updated door if it maintains the lights. Is that what you were saying, Savannah? Or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's kind of where I was. I just didn't. I appreciate your guys's expert eyeballs on this in terms of the rehabilitation standards. So
Yeah. And again, we're not trying to replicate and, but it seems very, very similar. And the
Yeah.
fact that maintaining the entrance, the structure of the entrance hallway or, entranceway is important too, I think. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan, I'm not finding those photos
Okay.
from Nick. I looked through all of our client provided area, so.
Okay. Sorry about that. I know that we do have them. If there is a way that we can provide them, we would be happy to do so. But I apologize that those didn't make it into our submittal.
Well, I'm okay if I don't see them at this point. How about Savannah?
I'm also fine. I trust you guys.
No? Yeah. So, okay, any other questions before we, well, one thing, if I would say to Michael, if there are any significant changes from what our motion ultimately is at DRB, that we would hear it again.
Yes, Madam Chair. I believe that is,
If they're wild changes.
yes, Madam Chair, I believe it's our standard policy with projects that come to you before they go to DRB. It's
Yeah,
always been a
I'd like to
standard
bring it
policy.
up so that the applicant isn't surprised.
And I would suggest that that should be part of the motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, all right. So Joel or Savannah will need you to move since.
yeah, I'll be glad to try this. But what's part of the motion were you suggesting, Michael?
Is that if they go to DRB on June 16 and there's anything significantly different from what they have presented to you today, or DRB is requesting something different that will be significantly different from what is being presented to you today, then they come back to PROS with that new information.
All right, I'll give it a stab here. So in relation to item 3B, SD-042-0044/TC-com-0223-00659 at 33 South 6th Avenue. I move that the item be approved as presented, except
Recommended for approval.
recommended for approval as presented, yeah. And with the provision that if there are any significant changes from what's been presented here today, that it come back to Plans Review Subcommittee for consideration.
Okay, is there a
I
second?
get it, or I don't know. We'll see.
Is
I
there a
second.
Okay, is there discussion? Okay, if not, Terry votes aye, Savannah
Aye.
and Joel.
Yes.
Okay, it passes 3-0, and good luck with the project, and we'll see
Thank
you
you.
later.
Thank you very much. We
Thank you, guys.
appreciate it.
Bye. Okay, let's move on to item 3C, which is TP-PRE 0523-00207 at 847 North Stone Avenue. This is an alteration to the existing facade. It's a courtesy review in the Miracle Mile National Register Historic District. It's a contributing resource, and they'll be using rehabilitation standards. And who is here to present this case?
Madam Chair, this is Rory Juneman with Lazarus and Sylvan, 5983 East Grant Road in the city. Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. I wonder if you could put your name and your address in the chat and your company. It's just, I really need to get it correct for them.
Yeah, sure. And with me is Robin Large, and I'm unfortunately needing to call in because we're traveling up to Flagstaff. She's on Zoom and she can type that in.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
is it any better? Okay, thank you. Can you hear me any better? I'll try to talk a little bit louder.
I'm sorry, Terry, who's Joe? Who's giving the presentation? I apologize.
He's going to put it in the chat, and so we'll be able to see it. I couldn't hear it very well.
I didn't hear it either. So, okay, in the chat. I'll see if I can get in the chat.
Yeah, let me see if I can put you on Bluetooth on my car if it's a little bit better.
Rory
Let me
Juneman.
switch over.
With Lazarus and Sylvan, and then your colleague is Robin Large. Yes, very
Yes,
good.
ma'am, that's right.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, it's just a little hard to hear. Okay, and do we have someone else here? Is there a Mark Schreier? Schreier,
Yes.
are you with this case as well?
Yes, I'm intending to purchase this building, and we are currently investigating if all the projects intended are possible.
Okay, so you're the potential buyer. Okay.
Yes.
All righty. Okay, then go ahead, and who's ever presenting, let's go for it.
I may have to share my screen for them.
Okay.
I am happy to share my screen, unless you,
Oh, okay, no, go ahead. Go ahead, Robin.
it looks like I need you to stop sharing yours first,
That's what I'm
Michael.
trying to do.
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay. But from the staff point of view, Madam Chair, I think this project is straightforward. It is an existing building that they intend to convert into offices because there is a gym show that comes to Tucson every time. They have some international vendors and people who are interested in the gym show. So the intent is to convert this into like 8 tenant spaces that will provide offices for all these gym show dealers. And that is what they are here to present to you. It's a courtesy review. They're just here to get some more information from you. The structure is currently contributing, but we do note that there's some unpermitted work that has been done to this property. which we need to be addressed at one point. Maybe Robin will speak to that. So with that,
Yeah,
I can tell you.
and Mr. Teku and Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I tried to switch over and I had technical problems, so I'm back, and hopefully you can hear me. So my apologies for that.
No, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that, Michael.
Yeah, that's okay. So with that said, Madam Chair, it's a courtesy review. So with this introduction that I'm giving, I'll turn it over to Robin so they can do their presentation.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is Rory. I'll do the presentation, but Robin can show some things. So I think as Mr. Teku had mentioned, he may not have mentioned that our client has this property under contract, and he's hoping to close on it in the next few weeks. But we wanted to have this courtesy review first because I think some of the feedback, hopefully you can give us, will be kind of instrumental on whether or not he closes. So as Mr. Teku said, our client wants to sort of convert this building to combination offices for gem show dealers and a cafe in the front. In order for us to do that, we are going to have to use the IID, or the Infill Incentive District approval through the city. And when we do that, we've got to make sure that we do not affect the contributing status of the property. So this property is pretty interesting. And if Robin, if you could bring up that Tucson Citizen article, the property was open in 1940. It was a auto service center, Beaudry Automotive, and when we found the historic photos in this article, we were pretty surprised because we're sort of concerned about the front facade, the east-facing facade of the building. When we read the article, it didn't have a front facade. It was a 24-hour auto service center without, and it was open air. It didn't have really a front wall. So this was surprising. I don't think any of us had ever seen anything like it. And it really started kind of raise some questions on if we wanted to go back to that 1940s facade, what would that entail? What would that look like? Because it obviously can't be open air. And one thought is to have it floor to ceiling windows across the front, and that's really cost prohibitive. So before I go any further, I do want to note that at some point, and we're not sure exactly when, the newspaper photos are the only ones that we've been able to find, and we're going to continue to look. But at some point, the facade was closed in and changed significantly. If you're familiar with this property and you've been by there, there's some clear story windows on the northern end of the east facade. There's kind of a storefront on the southern end, but it's much different than it was back when it was opened in 1940. The seller, the current owner of the property, has done some work to this facade, mostly on the southwest corner of the building, but the southeast corner of the building. And in our discussions with Jody, her feeling is that it probably has taken it out of its historic contributing status. The inventory, I think you all know, the Miracle Mile District is pretty recent, and so the inventory is pretty recent. So the inventory doesn't represent the 1940s facade. It represents what happened to it after that. Probably, we kind of think sometime in the 60s or 70s. But
And I have that picture up on the screen too.
Perfect. Thank you, Robin. Mm-hmm. So that facade, though, isn't really, it's something that's very closed off, and for what our client wants to do with opening a restaurant or a cafe, his hope is that we can do something that's a little bit more open. So the challenge, we've talked this over with Jody, the challenge I think really is how do we represent architecturally and historically an open facade on that east side, but have it closed in, and you know, I again avoiding a situation where you have floor to ceiling windows across that entire front facade, because I just think that'll be sort of cost prohibitive. So we do have, our architect has come up with an initial drawing, an idea, but this is just a starting point. This is just our initial idea. And I think this is what we wanted to show you, and get your feedback on it, get your thoughts. You know, maybe you all have seen a situation like this where you know, we want to architecturally represent an opening, but you got to have it closed in, and you've got to, you know, you can't do what was originally there because it's just impossible. But you know, we'd like some ideas and some feedback on this. This is a courtesy review. We would come back before you do the IID process, because we're in a historic registered district, and we're adjacent to the West University HPZ. So through the IID process, we would be coming back to you for a recommendation, but that's quite a ways down the road. We really just wanted to get this early feedback to make sure it's something that we can potentially do in the future. So, and with that, I'm happy to ask any or answer any questions.
Rory, could you go back to the previous slide, or Robin? I just want to see that again. I'm trying to remember it in my mind.
This one here?
Yeah. Okay, it's a little bit different angle. So, okay, so basically go to the next one then. So what is the period of significance for Miracle Mile again?
Robin, I don't know if that's on the inventory form. I thought it was from the 40s to the 60s, but that's off of memory. So
yeah. And we think that this change was when?
That's a great question. It could have been maybe as early as the 60s, maybe the 70s. We haven't been able to find pictures of. We know in 1940 what it looked like, and then we know in, I think 2010 or 11 is when the inventory form was done. So we just don't know exactly when it was closed in. So I think what oh, go ahead.
I want to be clear. We think the period of significance for Miracle Mile is from 1940 to 1960. Is that it?
It would be in the body of the nomination. These are the property inventory forms. It would be, this is basically what is significant under. I would have to look up that nomination, but I mean, clearly whatever it was approved looking the way it does now, right? So
well, not really, because our the seller of the current owner of the property, not my client, because he's looking to buy, has changed it in the last year. So
changes, please.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sorry, I'm a little lost. Why is it in the why is it in the Miracle Mile Historic District?
Because it has to do with motor, you know.
Oh, okay.
And all that. I mean, that's, and there's some other things there too. There's the historic motels and so forth. So this makes sense.
Okay, yeah, because there's those the hotels that come up that street almost all the way up to University Boulevard. Yeah, okay.
Right. So tell us about the changes. So it doesn't look like this anymore, and it doesn't look like the original photo. So what has changed?
So what our architect has sort of initially started off with was trying to put as much glazing as possible to represent sort of an open space or an open entry, and then using light colored stucco to also sort of represent that. I think the challenge is we're trying to represent a completely open facade with with some sort of, with a combination of windows and stucco or other materials. So I think that's the intent of trying to represent that facade as being open, but we've got to enclose it. So I think that's what we're maybe looking for, some feedback on that concept to see if it's something that's possible. I mean, if not, we'll have to work through that. But that's hopefully what we're looking for, to get some feedback on.
So what did Jody tell you has happened that would likely delist this property? Because there's something to the contributing or to the character defining features that it's been changed so much that if it were evaluated again, it likely wouldn't be significant.
Yeah,
anymore.
the entryway has been changed, the windows have been changed. So it looks different than what the modifications that were made in the 60s or 70s, whenever those were made. It's been changed enough that she felt that she hasn't made an official determination on it, but she felt that it may have knocked it out of its historic contributing status.
But you also said that the changes that you propose to make could bring it back to, could preserve the status.
It would, but it would be different, right? It would be trying to go back to its sort of original construction back in 1940s, not the renovations that happened in the 60s or 70s. So I think our intent is to bring it back so it represents its original construction. Obviously, we can't take it back because that whole facade was open, but doing something that sort of represents that it was open. And again, that's kind of what we're looking for guidance on. I think it's a pretty unusual situation, so that's why we wanted to come to you guys early and make sure that it's something that it's at least possible to do.
Well, my first thought is that if you want to bring it back to something that's compatible with the early, when it was first constructed, you'd need some more historic evidence, wouldn't you think, Savannah and Joel? I mean, photographs of what it looked like. I mean, they're not trying to replicate. They're wanting a rehabilitation.
Yeah, I mean, you have that 1941 ad photograph, right? Which it's hard to see all the detail, but I don't know. I kind of get the gist, right? Get the essence. It's about this canopy structure, and that canopy structure is original, right? It seems like, to me, it looks like some columns have been added, but the main two columns and the main extent of the canopy looks to match this.
Yeah, I agree. I think the canopy would remain, the building structure would remain, and I know the picture isn't great, and we'll still do some more research. We haven't done, we haven't gone to the Arizona State Museum yet. That's on our plan to go look and see if there's other pictures. And this picture isn't the best, but the article actually describes that the building was open air, no facade. So it's kind of interesting that through the picture and the article, we were able to piece together that it looks like the whole front was really just an open air service station. Now I don't know how long that lasted. That doesn't really seem like it was that feasible. But when air conditioning became more prevalent, they closed it in and changed the front facade. We'll look for more pictures. If we have those, I think they'll be helpful. But unfortunately, this is what we have right now. So.
Yeah, and you may change your mind and want to make it look more like it was before these recent alterations were made.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I would just suggest finding out exactly what, you need to look at the full nomination and see what the character defining features are for these contributors. And so don't you think, commissioners? I mean, to understand.
Yeah, I don't think I wasn't able to read through it. I don't think we had that nomination form that was pulled up earlier, did we?
I don't know if that was in there. I don't think it was.
I didn't see that. This I don't think we got. So I wasn't able to quite read through this. But
So, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, I think one of the recommendations can be whenever they are going to come back to you for a full review, they should include that in the package.
Right, and then photographs, any other photographs you find. And Rory, you had mentioned the University of Arizona Library, I think, or Arizona State Museum. I think you meant the Arizona Historical Society, possibly.
Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Archive. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
I think that would help tremendous. I'm glad to hear that you're aiming to still do that research and see what other evidence you can get to kind of inform your design. I'm excited. I drive by this building all the time. I'm always so interested in it and excited to hear that something's happening. And it seems like a very nice proposed adaptive reuse of it. And I like to hear that you're, kind of using the history to inform the design response, especially on that important east facade.
and then I think you do really need to understand from Jody's office, speaking with them, what the character defining features are that have to be brought back, that have been modified. Like what has happened to the building that can be reversed, right? And then go from there. I mean, I think you'll have to evaluate, going back to the 40s look or to the look before it was modified recently, if that makes sense. And go ahead.
I think the look before it was modified just a year or two ago is very closed in, and frankly, it's not really attractive. I think that's part of the problem. It's got a lot of wall, and I think the hope is we could open it back up. And I guess what we were maybe looking for was if we're able to get more pictures that I think confirm what we think, that whole facade was open. There was no glass. There was nothing there. What are the things architecturally and historically, or architecturally that we might be able to sort of recreate that openness? And that's where we were hoping to maybe get some feedback or some ideas. If you have seen something like that, if you have any thoughts. So.
I mean, I can weigh in on that a bit. I mean, I think you're on to the right. You're on the right path. I guess you're asking the right questions. You're seeking the right outcomes. I think if you are seeking to roll it back to that more 1940s open motor service station look and feel, it's about the transparency between the exterior and the interior, right? And getting that connection as strong as possible. But as you mentioned, there's the economics and the energy consequences of a ton of glass on the east. So it's kind of balancing those two things, right? The connection, the transparency, the storytelling of the original versus the now, the original use versus the proposed use, and then also just kind of the economics again of a bunch of glass and the performance of the building. So I think you're on the right track, and it's really like we're not here to design it for you. It's your architect who's gonna kind of try to fine tune and come up with those solutions that get at those ideas. But I think you're on the right track.
Sure. Yeah, that's helpful. I think the suggestion or the idea of openness and including materials and a design that sort of represents the just the openness of that whole area, that I think that's helpful. So
Yeah.
and I think our architect may be on the call. I don't know if Rick is, but if he's got questions to that, let us, please chime in.
I guess the only other thing I meant to mention but didn't is kind of a part of that is not acting like what is new was original or old, like telling that story, but distinguishing, right? What is original versus what is new. Does that make sense? Because I don't think you're not going to get a replication, right? Or a recreation. So that's kind of a interesting and challenging design challenge as well, to like really distinguish new versus old, but still tell the story that you want.
Well,
If that front facade is differentiated from the rest of the building, that you're saying that's not a bad thing. That may be actually a good
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I would go as far to say that it should be distinct.
Okay.
It should be obviously modern and new.
But not wildly different, but it would still be represented what you're saying, but it's, because you're not trying to replicate what was there. You're trying to, but clearly the elements of this facade were character defining: the openness, the overhang, the shape of the building behind it, and even sort of the colors, because it was sort of industrial. It was very modern looking for the 40s, right?
Mm-hmm.
It almost looked like a giant hangar. That's very, very cool. Let me just ask, so Rick Bright, you're the architect for the project?
yes.
And you're also with Lazarus and Sylvan? No?
No. I'm with Bright Design Associates.
Right.
So
Okay, and let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, we have Gabriel Slider. Who's that?
He's one of our staff, Madam Chair. He's a staff at PDSD.
Yeah, I'm just observing, taking some notes from Maria.
Okay, and Paula Valencia? You're on mute, I think, Paul. Put something in the chat.
Yes. Madam Chair, she's a broker on for our clients, so she's on just observing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just have to be able to represent without any big mistakes, and you guys don't see this again to post it. So,
Yeah,
okay.
nope.
Thank you. Okay. Did you have any other comments, Savannah?
I don't think so. I think I got them all out. Thank you.
And Joel.
Thanks. Yeah. No, first, let me say I agree with everything that you and Savannah have said. I mean, and this is adjacent to my neighborhood, West University, and I'm glad that there's interest in this building. It's been around a long, long time, and it's been a skateboard park and just all kinds of stuff. And glad to see somebody picking up on it. The only thing I would say that's different from maybe it's not even different, but there are a lot of these projects that talk about, well, they're tied in with motor culture, and some that have worked real well have the distinguishing characteristics of leaving some brickwork open. If you go down to 6th Avenue and 6th Street, there are all those great buildings with lots of brickwork, lots of glass and angular metal, like is here represented in this picture. So I agree that you're on the right track, and maybe look at those buildings and stuff would give you an idea of what I'm, what what I mean when I say these things. So yeah, okay, good deal. Great project. Thanks.
Yeah, and so Roy, Jody never told you that it would be impossible to bring it back or to remedy anything that would make it a non-contributor.
Can you say that? Sorry, I broke up
Okay,
when you said that.
did she give you any indication that she thought it was not possible to bring it back, you know, to remedy all the things?
No, I think part of the purpose of this call was to get y'all's feedback on how to do that, particularly back to the 1940s original design. And I think what you all presented, I think is helpful towards that. So
That's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much for the feedback and the thoughtfulness on it.
Yeah, and I wanted to offer again, I mean, in the past, we've done second courtesy reviews when you're closer to, when you found more information or you have some ideas you want to go over, you know, especially if this will be an IID project, right? I mean, there's lots of things to go on with it, and it's not like simply rehabilitating a house or something. It's just a much bigger concern. So we'd be happy to hear it again if you came back before the full review.
I'm probably almost certain we'll take you up on that because, at this stage, we have our client doesn't even own it, right? And he's hopeful to close on it. But then once that happens, then I think Rick can start kind of in earnest in addressing this. And I think we've probably heard that it's possible and we can move forward with it. But once we know that, then I'm sure we'll be coming back to you all. So thank you.
Right. And Miracle Mile is a really exciting district. I mean, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of activation that's going to go on because it's a very different historical characterization of Tucson. A very different age than. I mean, that's what's so unique about Tucson, that there's so many historical periods in these different neighborhoods, and there is a lot of excitement going on about Miracle Mile. So I think it's a great potential project. It's just my personal opinion. So
right. Well, thank you all very much.
Yeah,
okay.
I may just want to add to the applicants to actually understand, like Madam Chair is saying, if you intend to use the IID, one of the conditions of the IID use is that you cannot bring up a project that would lead to delisting of the property. So let your design do everything to keep this as much as you can, to keep this as a contributor.
Yeah, and I know
understood. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Jody and her office will work with you, and so yeah, there's a lot of resources out there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Great. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go on then to item 4. It's Task Force on Inclusivity Report Recommendations. 4A is discussion on best practices for naming of city and county-owned physical assets. As I said at the last meeting on the 11th, I'd like to get this done this summer, but it's very difficult to have an extensive discussion when we have, this number of cases, if you know what I mean. So, that we've had today, which were good, good, but we'll get on this. Okay, let's move on to item 5, which is current issues for information discussion. And that item 5A is minor reviews.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Yesterday, first I want to thank Commissioner Ireland for actually, we had a miscommunication. He had offered to help with these reviews, and unfortunately, we missed out on times. So he actually visited all the projects that were earmarked to be reviewed yesterday, but we didn't catch up as a group. But I was able to do the review in West University and in Amory Park. In West University, we had a review at 127 East First Street. that was for a wrought iron fence around the property. This fence has already been installed. So they actually were doing it because zoning code enforcement got to them. And so they were doing it just to comply.
Is the zoning violation then?
127 East First, wrought iron fence,
Mhm.
which has already been put up and had a zoning violation. They were supposed to appear in court today, but we did the review yesterday. So the advice was to tell the judge that they are working with the Historic Preservation Office to get the historic component of this thing reviewed. I don't know what judgment the judge will give to them today, but they were in court yesterday. Oh, they will be in court today. The second one we had, Madam Chair, was at 538 North Hoff Avenue for a window and door. This one, the window was okay because they were proposing wood. The door, the French door, was not appropriate because they are proposing vinyl and it's not allowed by West University design guidelines. So the owner is going to look for other doors that will be wood. So that one is on hold. The third one, which was a fence, was at 920 North 6th Avenue. That one, there was no issue. What we did, it was recommended for approval.
And what was that again, Michael, at 6th Avenue?
920 North 6th Avenue
And the review is for?
for a fence,
Okay, got it.
perimeter fence. And then we shifted gears to Amory Park. So these three that I mentioned to you were all in West University.
Okay, let me ask one last thing. So it was 538 North 4th Avenue?
Yes.
Okay,
No,
got it.
no, it was North Hoff, Hoff.
That's what I had first, and then I questioned myself. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
that's what it was, for a window and door.
Got it. Okay. A French right? Window and French door.
Yes.
Okay. And in Army Park.
In Amory Park, we also did 3 reviews. The first one was at 748 South 4th Avenue. This one is for a fence. It was inconclusive, so we have to review this again because the representative from Amory Park, they were saying things that are not consistent with the code. So we decided that we should put a hold on that. So we're waiting for the owner to send us a design for the front fence. Once we get that design, I'll be able to set up the review again.
Okay.
The second one was at 126 East 14th Street. This one was for a roof material change. They had gone through a minor review before. They asked to change from asphalt shingle to corrugated metal. But later on, they discovered that the cost was a little bit too much for them and they couldn't do that. And so they just asked to do light for light, to change from asphalt shingles to asphalt shingle. That went smoothly. And the third one was at 811 South 4th Avenue, which is just for a meter installation on the property. On the south side of the property, there was no issue with that one. So those
I'm
are
sorry. Yeah, Michael, did you say 1011 South 4th?
no 8811.
Okay, I'm really sorry. I was coughing right in the middle of that.
Yeah,
And installation, metal installation?
no installation of a meter, just service meter.
Got it. And no problems. Okay.
No problem with that. So those are the 6 reviews that I did on site yesterday.
Wow, you're busy.
I was.
So Joel never did catch up, even though he looked. at
No,
them.
he didn't catch up, but he went to all of them. Everyone that showed up, they told me that he was here. So we're just missing on time. But thank you, Gil. Next time I'll be more cautious and I will communicate with you more.
Okay, do you have any upcoming, or are you okay for a while?
No, I'm okay for now. If there are any upcoming, they probably will be next week and I will reach out.
Okay, all right, so item 5B is appeals.
We do not have any appeal at this point in time, Madam Chair.
5C is zoning violations.
Yeah, while doing the minor reviews in West University, I actually came across about 2 properties that have already applied, but I think I will turn them in and they will eventually be coming to you. Those properties are 205 East University, which is a fence that they put up without actually going through any review. And the other one is 207 East University. This one is also a fence. So I'll be turning that in, and they should be coming to either, if they want to comply as we try to do, then we'll do it as a minor review. If they don't, they will end up coming back to you.
Okay, so you'll either as minor or full review.
Or full review, yeah, depending on how the applicant wants to do it.
Okay.
That's what I have for zoning violation, Madam Chair. But again, as I always say, we continue to work to first of all use the friendly approach, and if not, then it goes up to a full review. We have one, which is a zoning violation that is coming to you. That one is 713 East 5th Street. This is a structure where they have changed like about 10 windows, altered the size of the windows, block out some doors, and they've done all that with no permit, nothing. So that for sure is coming to you as a zoning violation case.
Okay, and that is, tell me again the street address.
713
East 5th.
East 5th Street.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have for zoning violation.
Okay. Item 5D is review process issues. Does anyone want to bring something up? I just wanted to ask real briefly of commissioners, or Michael, do you ever hear that when we do these extensive LARs on courtesy reviews, that people actually go back and use those, that they can always go back to the recordings, right? But I think if you have something written and it's, you know, I don't know, what do you think, commissioners? Do you think these are useful to have this detail for the courtesy reviews?
I think it puts a lot on you, honestly. If the recording is available to them and they need that amount of deep, is that the case? Is the recording, that's public, right?
Yeah, but it's difficult. It's, that was a 2-hour meeting. And so and people are not going to listen to that. And there are the ones that are easier than others, but I think that there might be a better way to just suggest that people listen to the recording and then just summarize the high points. That would still take me hours. It literally took me about 8 hours to do that LAR, just because I had to listen to it. Plus I had the flu.
Yeah, I guess my answer to your question is I hope it's appreciated and used, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if we can find out. Do you ever hear anything, Michael, that people find that useful?
Yes, Madam Chair, they do. Some applicants actually ask us for that LAR when they're working on their project, because I believe it's a big guide to them. We also advise them that the recording is available so they can listen to it themselves. So I think it is useful, but I think that for the sake of time, if you were just to highlight the main points and leave it up to them to go figure it out themselves, that's fine. And then the other thing, the subcommittee can always know whether they are listening to your comments or not, but when they come back to you, if you look at the earlier and see what they have come back to you with, then based on those two, you can actually figure out whether your comments or what you said was actually helpful in their design or something like that.
Yeah, well, people do read them carefully, and I know Savannah made a bunch of comments because I was tired when I typed that up. It took me a long time. So it really depends on the state of mind, but I try to do a good job. So I think maybe I'll try something, a little bit more succinct. But I do hope it's helpful.
Terry,
Go ahead.
I don't really know about this process. Do you mean like for the meeting we just had, you would type out the whole transcript?
Yeah, what you saw or you didn't read because I never get comments back from you. Yeah. I had 20 pages of handwritten notes.
Well, I saw the detailed notes and I just I think that's way above the Call of Duty. I absolutely would narrow it down even to one page of like minutes and say the recording's available. That's a burden that's really high. I don't know.
Well, but I don't know if
I do think it's useful, but
yeah.
I don't know. It seems like a lot. Okay, there you go.
But I tend to, for the actual HPZ cases, I'll put a little background in there, and then I make sure highlight a few points, and then I make sure I get the motion correct.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Any suggestions you guys have? I'll try to. This one wasn't as extensive, but I mean the presentation we had, the last case of the May 11th meeting was, I don't really understand why, because we rarely do courtesy reviews on HPZs like that. Was that because he just wouldn't take no for an answer, Michael? Or he wanted something that he didn't feel he was getting from your office? Or what do you think?
That particular case, I think it's just an applicant that we have spoken to him, Jody has spoken to him, I have spoken to him, and I think he's one of those kind of people that probably you need to repeat the same thing over and over and over before maybe he gets it, or he just doesn't get it. That's what we think. Because we talked to him several times on that project. We have talked to him about the process. We've talked to him about what he needs to do and all of that. So, and even during the review, you could have seen that you were repeating the same thing over and over and over and over.
Oh, right. I mean, and that's very clear when I did it. But again, when we hear that case again, we'll be happy that we have those detailed notes, because I don't think anyone has the time to listen to over an hour-long tape on it.
No, I think what you did, what I think is going to help when he finally comes to you is that we have the notes here. You can at least point to him that, hey, here's what we requested of you. This is it written down here. We have it here. You have not done this. You have not done that. You have not done that. Because he's going to come back and it will be the same scenario. For that, because we have done a minor review with him and it's the same thing.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll see how I can do this a little bit more succinctly. I still kind of have to listen to it. So anyway, all right. Thank you for that feedback, everyone. Item 6 is summary of public comments. Were there any public comments submitted by the deadline, Michael?
None, Madam Chair.
Okay. We have, let's see, item 7. Future agenda items. Our next scheduled meeting is June 8th. What do you have for us, Michael?
Off the top of my head right now, I do not think that I know any project that will be coming your way. I do believe that we'll have a meeting. I don't know the projects yet.
But you will let us know.
But we'll let you know. Because there was no meeting for Amway Park last Tuesday, so I don't think anything is coming from Amway Park because we didn't have a meeting. We had a meeting for West University, which you had your project today. So by June 8th, I believe we may have something coming up. People usually just call for courtesy review and stuff like that. So any prepared case that is ready to, as an HPC, I don't know of any right now. I don't know the cases that Jody are working on, but from my side, I don't have any that is ready. In the next 2 weeks, I'll be having cases in West University and Emory Park that will be ready for your review, but I can't say for sure.
Okay. Well, Savannah and Joel, will you both be able to attend on the 8th?
On the 8th?
Yeah.
I believe so. Let me look real quick.
I thought I had a calendar, yeah. Don't
Okay.
know, yeah.
And Jan emailed and said that she said she was sorry because she was working on her dad's resettling in a different place to live. And so hopefully she'll be back, and Carol is usually around, but was off this time. So anyway, thank you very much, everyone. And we'll go ahead and adjourn at 2:31. And Michael, you'll go ahead and send me a link to the recording, or Jody will.
Yeah, it will go to Jody and she will send it to you, Madam Chair.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Bye now.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
stop the record. Oh, Savannah, did you say you will be available on the 8th?
Yes, I am.
And me too, and Joel. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.